by film.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
It's the Bellagio, the Mirage, and the MGM Grand.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Mike Wazowski.
Open your eyes.
Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me!
King Kong ain't got on me!
What about second breakfast?
Why not? Why can't I?
How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
Let's do it. So welcome, one and all, to a brand new, likely very long episode of 20 Years, 4 Beers, a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from 2 decades ago, while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim.
And we are coming to you from just outside of... No, we're in.
Just within Minneapolis.
We're coming to you from, Minneapolis, Minnesota. I say likely very long because on this episode we are rewatching an absolute classic of a fantasy film, discussed for years in film circles and winning all kinds of awards. 2001's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. And yes, we are watching the extended edition. It seems very fitting that in a year where we covered many franchise starters or first films, Ocean's 11, Fast and the Furious, Legally Blonde, Shrek, Monsters, Inc., Zoolander, and Harry Potter.
That's right.
We would end that streak with this film, even though both of us consider all 3 of these films as one unit. Yeah. But that can be discussed later.
Yeah.
For those of you who have literally been frozen in carbonite,
wrong franchise.
Wrong franchise. For the last 50 years and have never heard of this story, The Fellowship of the Ring follows a small group of characters, including hobbits, dwarves, elves, wizards, and also men, who set out on a journey to destroy a mythical ring that is imbued... That's
nice.
Worse. Yeah,
that's good.
Wrote that myself.
Mm-hmm.
With the supreme power of the Dark Lord Sauron. Along the way, they must overcome evil orcs, betrayal of those they trust, their own internal struggles, and one huge-ass badass of a beast, the Balrog. Eventually, they must make a choice. Do they stay together or separate in an effort to best protect their leader de facto leader, Frodo Baggins, and save the whole of Middle-earth?
I will take it!
I will take the ring to Mordor. Though I do not know the way.
I will help you bear this burden, Frodo Baggins, as long as it is yours to bear.
If by my life or death I can protect you, I will. You have my sword. And you have my bow.
And my axe.
The film is directed by Peter Jackson, written by Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens. It stars many now household names who we forget were not at the time. 20 years ago, including Elijah Wood, Ian McKellen, Viggo Mortensen, Orlando Bloom, Sean Astin, Cate Blanchett, Liv Tyler, Sean Bean, John Rhys Meyers, to name just a few. I'm certain this will lead to many, but what are your initial memories of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring?
This was one that, as I think back to the movies we watched this year again, I think Memento was another one. This is probably our only other one that we watched in the theater together.
Yeah, I would think so.
I remember seeing this and being completely blown away. Like, it was a movie that had been talked about. Yes. Yep. I think we saw it with Andy Davey.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe that they executed on it because I just finished, I never read the books growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finished the first book because I wanted to read the book prior to seeing it to see it's a good translation. And I think I finished the first book maybe a month before this. And it was unbelievable to me that they were able to accomplish all that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it was incredible. I just remember walking out being completely floored by how amazing this movie was. Yeah. How about you? And our shared experience.
Yeah, I guess my biggest memories actually are more about the lead up to it because I never read the books. I even now I've barely even read them. I've always just sort of like looked through them. You
Spoiler,
know, working.
They're a bit slow.
Yeah, working at a bookstore for all those years, I obviously read through them. But
Sure.
at that time, it was not my genre of books by any means. And I remember the first trailer a year prior.
Yes.
Right. And it was talking about how, December of 2001, December of 2002 and all this stuff.
Yes.
And they were coming over the ridge. And I was like, what the F is this?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'd never really heard of growing up. I knew of The Hobbit, of course. And they had done like
the animated movie
plays and the movie. And so that was more popular.
Yes.
And I think even schools read The Hobbit and stuff like that, or
Sure.
at least. And so I was like, what is this? This is dumb. Like, I just, but then as it got closer and you hear more about it and how they did it, and you're just like, okay, cool. And I remember Fox had like a scene, like a preview scene, and it was in the Mines of Moria where the orcs all like attack them. And it was on Thanksgiving Day or something like that, or it was some sort of like scene. And I recorded it. And I remember watching it on VHS, of course, like weeks up into that movie, and like, this is amazing. Just seeing that scene.
Huh.
It was when they find the dead king.
Yep.
Right, and then they battle the orcs, and once the cave troll comes in, so it was about a 10-minute clip.
Oh wow!
It was really cool. It was like a special sneak preview.
Wow.
And I that's what I remember more than even seeing it in the theater.
Yes. Of
just that sort of excitement leading up to it. So that's what I really remember, and of course, loving it in the theater, and
incredible,
seeing it multiple times, etc. So,
when's the last time you watched it?
This year,
yesterday. No,
so
wow.
My son and I, during the pandemic, so it was probably late last year, early this year, we watched the first two. We're halfway through the third, and I can't quite get him to get there. And we did watch the extended edition too. So like, my kid is like, 3.5 hours for the first movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, trust me, you'll like it. And we finished it, and we watched the first one in one sitting.
Nice.
Which was awesome. So it was earlier this year, but prior to that, I probably watch it, every year or two. This is one of my favorite franchises. So,
and do we talk about the extended edition now or in the reaction segment?
We'll probably talk about in the reaction.
I mean, I should say what my also initial memory was when we saw it in the theater, and then this was when I was just starting to get into buying DVDs.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to wait for it to come out on DVD. And then I think we saw the notice that, oh, hey, this is going to come out on an extended director's cut with like 45 minutes of extra stuff. I was like, are you kidding me?
And then releasing it in theaters.
Yes.
At some point.
That was unheard of to me at the time of not just the cool, like maybe 10, 15 minutes. It's essentially going to be another mini movie added to it. And I was just amazed that they were taking this huge risk. So,
So our first segment then, I guess aside from that, as usual, is Drinking Buddies.
Come on, not my fucking beer.
Where we present the 4 beers we will be enjoying, hopefully, this episode. And since we love beer here at 20/4, we refer to them as our buddies. Given that we are about to embark on our longest film so far, and longest until the extended edition of Two Towers next year, this 4 might wind up being more than that.
Might be.
But we'll start with that. So, Tim, who are our drinking buddies?
Tonight we're going to start with out of San Diego, California, Thorn Street Brewing, which is just one of our favorites.
It's great. Yep.
I was there last week. Cue the cue. Their Thai Pina Colada Smoothie Sour. We're going to start
Is
that.
it Thai as in Thai?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Exactly. Not TIE. Thank you for clarifying. And the rest that we have of the 4.
Yep.
And we, determined in, honor of a trilogy, start of at least, we're going to have 3 theme beers.
Love it.
From Bad Habit Brewing out of St. Joseph, Minnesota. Their King's Brunch.
Love it.
What about second breakfast?
Which in many ways, that would be a second breakfast. I love it. It's their Imperial Pastry Stout with Imperial Milk Stout with cinnamon and maple syrup. 10%. This looks fantastic. Man, the can looks awesome. All right. We're going to enjoy that. And then after that, I love you brought this. Is so great. Bearded Iris Brewing. I love that. Not the beard.
Not the beard!
Out
Next movie, but
of
that's fine.
Nashville, Tennessee. Their double home style double IPA.
Mm-hmm.
So we enjoy that. And then Modern Times out of San Diego. Again, like I mentioned, I was just there last week.
Yeah.
Congrats to me. Modern Times, their Monsters Park Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels with vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three that we will be enjoying as our theme beer. But right now we're going to start with
there you go.
Our pina colada.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next segment then is the social network,
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 20 years ago. Generally speaking, I believe this movie was pretty well loved and respected in film circles, and certainly by fans. It did gross over $900 million worldwide at the time.
Yikes.
And I think there's just decades of love behind it. So it was pretty easy to find good reviews. My review, my one, you have like 4. Thank you.
Yes.
My review is out of Empire Magazine. Colin Kennedy said, and I actually was pretty, I'm always impressed by reviews that are like, looking back on it, you're like, you knew what you were getting into here, because he starts his review by saying history should quickly regard Peter Jackson's The Fellowship of the Ring as the first installment of the best fantasy epic in motion picture history. Goes on to say Fellowship is also unabashedly rooted in the fantasy genre, not to be confused with the techno-cool of good science fiction, nor even the cutesy charm of family fare like Harry Potter. The territory of Tolkien is clearly marked by goo and goblins and gobbledygook. Persons with an aversion to lines such as "to the bridge of Khazak Doom" are as well to stay within the Shire-like comforts of home at their loss.
Wow.
And I think while he did have some issues like the length and some breaks in the narrative a little bit, overall, as expected, it was a 5 stars for him.
Nice. That's a good review. Yeah, the highest rated movie that we've watched so far of all the podcasts we've done. IMDb ratings 8.8 out of 10, which I didn't take time to go look back, but that's well above other ones we've watched.
Oh, easily. Yep.
And like you mentioned, it's probably one of the rare movies as well where, even though we do justifiably crap on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score and critics score are essentially identical in the low 90%.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those moments where I'm like, Rotten Tomatoes is fine in this case.
Yes.
It's well respected. Rotten Tomatoes is bad when people get mad and they use it as a tool to get back at studios and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But this
or bros getting mad at women speaking their mind.
Bro.
So, Peter Travers of Rolling Stone said Fellowship of the Ring is the real deal, a movie epic that pops your eyes out, piles on thrills and fun, and yet stays intimately attuned to character. Mick LaSalle of the San Francisco Chronicle said, Mick said, watching the film, one can't help get the impression that everyone involved was steeped in Tolkien's work, loved the book, treasured it, and took care not to break a cherished thing in it. And actually had to, like I said, just having read the book just and finished it before I saw it, it did feel like they had done an incredible job.
Yep. And
of
even the changes they do make are, well, which we'll talk about probably later, but from the book,
yes,
are like by people who know the world, and it's like, it's not just, some studio head who wanted to change something. So
yes.
I agree.
And then what might be my most disappointing review that I've ever seen is Roger Ebert's, our big man Raj, 3 out of 4 stars. So did recommend it ultimately.
Yeah.
But if you read back through it, it's kind of this, I'll get to it here. So ultimately the film will be embraced, I suspect, by many Tolkien fans, although instead of transforming the book, Director Jackson has transmuted it into a sword and sorcery epic in the modern style, containing many of the same characters and incidents. But he starts his final paragraph of his review saying, that Fellowship of the Rings does not match my imaginary vision of Middle-earth is my problem, not yours. Perhaps it will look exactly as you think it should. We just talked about in a previous podcast about how annoyed I get with critics saying it didn't meet my expectations. Mm-hmm. And pretty much the first half of his review is him talking about, I saw the movie and then I went back and reread some of the things and I found so many issues that I had with it because it didn't meet my expectation. Like the battle at the bridge of Khazad Dûm. It's like 500 words. Oh my gosh. Like it was so annoying to me to watch this or read this and think about those critics that think I didn't like it because it didn't come to life as I thought it should. Even though the irony is they brought in artists, specifically Alan Lee and John Howe, who worked on the original books and created basically the tapestry of the movie from those. So I was rather surprised at how like frustrated I got with the late Roger Ebert seeing this review, because I hold him in such a high regard. This is probably one of the laziest ones he's had that I felt so annoyed of, like, come on, man, get over yourself. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I imagine Tim researching it and being like, shove that Pulitzer Prize square up your ass, Raj.
Exactly. It's like but the funny thing is, I think back to when he reviewed Blow. He's like, take out all the drugs and it's a regular dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
point,
the movie.
Right? Yeah.
Anyway, diatribe over. Academy Awards. Yep. Yeah, it was up for 13 nominations. Somewhat thought it might be easier to list the categories it wasn't nominated in, but for the sake of this, it was film editing, costume design, art direction, sound, original song, adapted screenplay, director, best supporting actor for Ian McKellen, and best picture. Ultimately winning 4 in makeup, original score by Howard Shore, visual effects, understandably so, and cinematography. So 4 out of the 13 it won. And in 2 years from now, we'll talk about how it totally raked up completely.
Yeah, except for cinematography, because it wasn't nominated that year. What? I know.
We already gave it to you.
This year, but they're like, no. It didn't win because it wasn't up. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to double check my stats, but I'm pretty sure. Not like I went to bed mad that night.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So, all right.
Social Network.
So, I don't know about you, but I am jacked to watch this.
I'm jacked to the tits.
Jack to the tees.
Jack to the tees. Also, future FYI, there will be spoilers. So, obviously, watch it at this point. So, here we go on our epic journey. We will now rewatch 2001's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Hold out your hand, Frodo. It's quite cool. What can you see? Can you see anything?
Nothing. There's nothing. Wait. There are markings. It's some form of Elvish. I can't read it.
There are few who can. The language is that of Mordor, which I will not utter here.
Mordor?
In the common tongue, it says, one ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, find them.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to 20 Years, 4 Beers. We have just finished rewatching 2001's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, first of a trilogy. And yeah, I guess we'll just dive on in. We got 3.5 hours of shit to talk about.
Top 5, right?
Top 5. So our normal first segment after this, our next segment then is our reactions segment that we call High Fidelity.
Top 5 side ones, track ones,
where we discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching the film. I think this will be interesting because we have discussed these films for years and years, saw them together, whatever. And I just think never in the context of this sort of like
totally
podcast. So it's going to be interesting to what we have. So I'm pretty excited about that.
You're excited. Feel these nipples.
What do you got? What's your first sort of takeaway?
Well, it sounds like first, but yeah, we had commented at the beginning when it started. We both joked like it might be hard to come up with notes because of how much we've seen the film.
Yeah, I mean, I got stuff written down, but I don't know if it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like how much can we reinvent the wheel? Exactly. So it's it's a fantastic experience of just after a while I stopped taking notes. I'm like, I just love this movie.
Yeah, at some point.
First thing, I just absolutely freaking love this movie.
Yeah.
It is so unbelievably good.
Right.
From start to finish. And we've talked about movies where we see and then maybe see like a prequel or something and you feel like, well, it kind of loses some of the sense of peril because you know whatever's going to survive. So you know, like, spoiler, it's the first of a trilogy. This was always advertised as a 3-movie experience. So
yeah,
you know they're going to
beginning.
survive in many ways, but
well,
it's
at least
still,
in this movie, you know, certain people will survive. You don't know in the end,
Sure.
but from this movie standpoint.
But
sure.
even still, and having read the book, like, you say, because I read.
I got time to read.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I did before 20 years ago, but anyway, it still is moving.
Mm-hmm.
It still is so incredible that it doesn't matter knowing what might come or the experience of these characters will continue on. It's a fantastic movie, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just watching it again, haven't seen it in probably 6-7 years or something like that. It's just a damn good movie.
Yeah, I was struck at my reaction this time. I mean, I watched it with my son in earlier this year or late last year or whatever, and that was sort of that moment of like when we watched Jurassic Park or Star Wars for the first time. You're like, okay, I'm gonna, I'm just. It's a big deal for me.
Yes.
My kid's laying on the couch, like not paying attention and on his phone for half the time, but it was a big deal, but like tonight, I agree. I think this movie, like, I'm always floored watching movies like this.
Yes.
Specifically this movie. It's just like a different level, of movie making. So yeah, I agree. It's interesting. So
like for me, okay, well, we'll kind of maybe break some of this down here. So
just talk.
One of the first things that came to mind was the first 7-minute summary of the Ring's history is just incredible filmmaking. Like incredible.
Right. There's
succinct yet compact
multiple books of information
of all Tolkien's world.
Yep.
Crammed into just this cliff notes.
I say yep as if I've read them.
Exactly.
I'm saying yep as if
No,
I'm agreeing with you.
I've only read
no
Hobbit
idea.
and the Lord of the Rings. The other stuff, I ain't got time for that. Because it's just, and even but from a movie-going accessibility perspective,
sure,
we're going to give you a primer of the world you are entering if you're a novice. And so they do a great job of explaining, like, oh, this is full fantasy. But it's still accessible, even to the point of like having the map put out there. So you can see and get a sense of like the scale of Middle Earth, this world, and the scope of the journey to come, which is a really great movie-going trick.
Right.
Of give you a primer of the environment, but also a landscape that you can get into. And then having the 5 minutes or so afterwards of Bilbo Baggins' voice over work explaining what hobbits are. But it's all through the guise of I'm writing a tale as a like narrative or a historical document. That is sometimes I get annoyed with kind of voiceover work.
Sure.
Where it's a kind of a lazy attempt to just explain things. But this was just perfect in that had you not have any idea what this world is about, give you a primer, give you a map, and then explain your entrance into this world is the hobbits. And that is 10 minutes, 12 or whatever, of just perfect movie making, launching off a huge trilogy to come. And I'm just amazed at that. Really.
Right. And I guess for me, well, I mean, the voiceover part too, I agree in that sense of sometimes voiceover work is like, don't tell me what I'm supposed to feel or whatever. But when it's at the beginning of a story, then you're like, oh, okay, this makes some sense. It's more exposition, or I think that's right.
Yep.
It's more that kind of stuff of explaining it.
Yes.
But I think there is an understanding in everyone that's like, this is a huge world that's been created. So 5 minutes of voiceover to explain is enough.
Yes.
That's it. I mean, that's all it is.
Yep. And then off we go.
Right. So I do think for me, what stood out, maybe not number one or whatever, but it's just like the screenplay is really impressive because it does an incredible job. It takes a ton of information.
Yeah.
Not just from this book, the first book.
Yes.
But from the world that Tolkien built.
Yes.
Organizes it. It makes it make sense because
True.
From what I've read of the books, and I've not read probably all of them in one sitting or whatever, it's confusing AF and boring and slow.
Totally.
So to be able to make that interesting and flow.
Excuse me, flow?
And one of the review I talked about I didn't like read about it necessarily in my coverage on the first part, was he says something along the lines of the same thing of you end up leaving after 3 hours in the theater, and wanting more and not feeling like you've been bored along the way or whatever. Like, so that's all a testament to everything, but really the screenplay to be able to get you there and take all this stuff, and then layering the drama, right?
Yes.
Like doing what the old school movie tropes do, or whatever, is you start small and you start building and you build and you build and you build and it just get bigger and bigger, 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 bigger. And that's what they do, right?
Yes.
You've got the thing at the beginning that hooks you.
Yep.
Like any action movie does, right?
Yeah.
Mission Impossible does it all the time. There's the opening. Bond does it too.
Yes.
But then it goes back to start small and just sort of builds. So screenplay is outstanding. Yeah.
Absolutely. To be able to condense down like 2,000 pages over these 3 movies, but to have it be accessible to a modern audience and compelling.
What one adapted? I'm assuming we talked about it.
We've done original because of Gosford, but
original is Gosford. I'll look while you talk.
Yeah. So as we were talking in the movie, the second thing that stood out was you kind of take for granted in some ways, like this old school movie making that occurs in this movie, like the in-camera forced perspective that they used between the different size characters.
Yep.
Where you could be all in screen together, filming at the same time, different size sets that they might use, or foreground, background. Probably just one of the most impressive things about this movie.
Right.
Where you just experience it and it doesn't, there's, effects and you can see it sometimes. But overall, I would say that I can't really think of another movie since Jurassic Park in the sense of combining live action with computer graphics that was completely groundbreaking. And I remember sitting in the theater thinking that of, 7-8 year difference between Jurassic Park and this at the time, and Jurassic Park is unto itself the most.
But they're very different, and like this has the visual effects in this. You talk about forced perspective. That's what's more impressive.
Yes.
The visual effects still hold up.
Oh, totally.
20 years later, just like Jurassic Park 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's really impressive is actually the non big CGI scenes.
The trickery.
Right. That's what's really impressive. Like, it's like when you go to Disneyland or Disney World and they have the forced perspective of the buildings to make them look bigger or whatever, and you're like, this is so simple from a mathematic equation standpoint, and yet all I have to do is have this actor stand closer to the camera and they look twice the size of this other person.
Exactly.
Well, why wouldn't we just do that? And they do other times where they have edits and stuff, but yeah, it's really I see where you're going though. Is it's been 8-10 years at this point where they really meld everything together.
Yes,
in such a way,
because Jurassic Park just changed the game. It was the
T2 and Jurassic Park. I agree.
True. Yes, those two together at the early 90s just changed everything. This felt like the next step forward to me at the time.
Yeah. Yep.
Of combining all the practical effects with the digital effects and Weta digital, like unbelievable what they're able to accomplish.
Is it Weta or do you have to say like Weta?
like a Kiwi?
Australian accent?
Weta digital?
Is it Weta?
Austria. Well then, good day, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie.
Anyway,
I'm gonna go Weta.
I'm gonna go Weta.
Yeah. But and you're right, they hold up. Watching them, I mean, earlier this year we watched Harry Potter.
Yeah,
and you watch it and go, there's a troll battle, and it's straight garbage. Just terrible graphics, and this still holds up.
Yeah,
and then I can't wait till next year when we watch Gollum, and I still think Gollum holds up 20 years later. For graphics. But
assuming we're still around doing this in 2 years, when we talk about Shelob, the spider, versus the spiders from Chamber of Secrets, you're like, okay, yeah, there's a big difference, and this is all the same time.
Yes, but that was the thing of just experiencing and watching of just the old school practical effects were really, really impressive.
Yeah, I have written too of just like, to me, this, but movies like this, but specifically this, is always an example of the best of movie making magic. Like, if CGI existed like this, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they would have done the same kind of stuff. Like, it's taking everything you can do. A group of people get together and they say, what can we do? How can we make this world real? And they do it. And so obviously, what X amount of years after whatever movie you want to talk about, they're able to have all this stuff. And it's the storytelling. We talked about the screenplay, production, the visuals, the passion of the people involved comes through. It's all top notch. Like, it's all like movie making knowledge comes. All these people have said, I've done this for, like, Jackson had done this at that point for 20 years or whatever, but everyone involved, the Weta people.
Yeah, Richard Taylor with his effects.
Right, exactly.
Just unreal.
And I think Grant Major did the production design, and all these people took everything they had learned over the years. And what was interesting is they took it because CGI, most of these people have been working in the industry for, 20 years, 30 years or whatever.
Sure.
So they were working in an industry that they didn't have the CGI.
Yeah.
So now they come in and they say, okay, we're going to bring practical effects and we're going to marriage it with CGI. So these people who have been doing this with no budget, low budget stuff, bring in and have all this, relatively speaking, huge budget.
Yes.
It is. It's to me, it's movie making at its best when you just watch it and you're just like, from the first scene, you're like, oh, everyone involved in this is doing their absolute best work.
Because you think about this time was also the same time that the Star Wars prequels were coming out. And you can compare, like, from a digital standpoint.
Yeah, we will next year with Attack of the Clones.
Exactly. But you think about, like, just at the time, the movie making mentality of what an experience could be like. And you can see not polar opposites, but variations of it that are really successful, like this, and the prequels, where it felt so sterile and awful. Just, I totally agree with you. Everybody brought their best for this, and it totally works. I
mean, we can certainly talk about the prequels a lot, but what this does is it brings a story, right, versus the prequels, which didn't.
No.
It's I love it. I mean, I don't, it's not a perfect movie by any means, because there's almost no such thing as a perfect movie, but you do say, I sit down and watch this and you're washed over in, the people who take this seriously.
Yes.
Everyone took it seriously. Actors on down to directors, writers, grips, etc.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive.
Not to TMI, but we paused it to take a quick break, go to the bathroom, regroup on beers.
Sure.
And it was an hour and 10 minutes in.
It's like, I think we had quite a few. This should be like, our podcast should almost be titled like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, aka 6P breaks.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But like, we're an hour and 10, and they crammed in so much in an hour and 10, and you can watch other movies that are maybe like an hour and a half, and they don't get near as much.
Oh, we have
of what they can cram in, and you're like, I'm a third of the way through this thing. Like, yes, I agree. So, one thing that we talked about, and it hints at some. So the third thing for me was they truly could have only made this story and filmed it all at once, I think, to be successful. In terms of like when Gandalf at the beginning rides to Gondor to the library to learn about the ring's history, it's at the city that eventually is the final battle.
Yes.
In the third movie. Spoiler.
Yeah.
But they had to know what that movie or that city would look like for continuity's sake. And then you have the, Saruman's tower for the two towers. And you pointed out, as we were talking through, the tiny hint of a theme from a musical score standpoint that really only comes in briefly for Boromir that plays a huge part in the third movie. I mean, this
it alludes
only
to it,
could have been successful with the approval of let's do it all together, all at once. And I think that's what I think lends itself to, not to crap on the Star Wars again, but I think about
I'll crap on another franchise. Yeah,
Star Wars, not the prequels, but the newer ones, the 3. Knowing there wasn't a consistent continuity designed,
right?
It was just like, let's do 3.
Yeah,
but then they had you could see it didn't work,
right?
Because you didn't have that through line.
Oh, one of them worked.
One of them did, exactly. But this is such a great example of, a huge risk and a huge gamble, and it pays off. And it only would have been successful by having the 3 filmed together. So I it's an incredible start to this movie series.
Yeah, I think again, it's a passion project thing, right?
Yes.
Where I think about, speaking of, say, Orlando Bloom, Pirates of the Caribbean did this, right? First one's great. First one's
it has
totally
no business being that good.
Yeah, it's totally fun.
So good.
But then they decide to film the next 2 simultaneously.
Yep.
And there it was a cash grab. Plus, you had actors had to all kind of you had to make it work, and they forced square peg round hole situation, and that is a big difference, because had they, say, written the second movie, produced it, done it, realized how flawed it was, they could have made changes. Whereas this, they didn't need to realize that, because this is a piece of literature that's been around for 50 years at that time.
Yes.
You don't have to do that, right?
No.
So I do agree, though, in a sense of there is, I don't want to say no way, but the first movie would have been probably this no matter what.
Sure.
Because it would have been the first movie, right?
Yep.
I liken it to, say, like, you see, like, Ted Lasso, say, for example, on the first season.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they had. It was all everyone sort of making it work. And then afterwards, it's this huge hit. And you're like, oh, now we got money and we got to do this. So it feels different.
Yes.
And so for this, it is similarly, like, all of these films, which I assume we'll discuss the next 2 years, they all feel the same because they were all made at the same time. It wasn't like, we made this thing, it's a hit, surprise, now we have all this money, let's go make another one.
Yes.
Say, like Pirates. And you're like, oh, so you can't catch that lightning in a bottle. And that's why something like this works so well.
Yeah, I agree. The Pirates franchise was like, oh, let's try and recapture that lightning experience. And you can't do that.
Right.
And I think that's what sets us apart as a film for this discussion, but also the trilogy as a whole, is that they made it designed to be an overall experience.
Right.
And so when people talk about like best sequels or whatever it is, it's like, this is
this doesn't
all-encompassing.
No.
It doesn't count. I
no,
agree.
and actually, and to be fair to most of those lists, they don't list Two Towers or Return of the King on that.
Yes.
Because they're not sequels. It's all one story.
Nothing exists like this.
Right.
That it was, I mean, even Dune that we saw this year was always designed to be 2 movies, but it was a risk of, we're only going to make the first. And depending on the success, we'll make the second.
Well,
so we'll see what happens. It's probably same movie going.
Dune is one story.
Oh, sure.
The world has more books and stuff like that. But what we're talking about, so even if they make it later on and time does pass in that, so it makes some sense to be able to let time pass from producing it. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yes. All right. So the fourth thing I had was I am always amazed when, and we've talked in some of the previous podcasts about swings and misses when it comes to casting, but Viggo Mortensen, easily the best casting decision in this film.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure Stewart wouldn't have been a better?
No. Like, yeah, or whatever. Yeah,
Stuart Townsend?
Yes. Like, it's crazy to think that he was just chosen a second guy. Yeah, Stuart Townsend was there. Brought
no, not only there, he had been there for months.
Yeah, they filmed.
Right, yeah.
He's too young. We got to get him out. And they called him up and be like, hey, living in Montana or Utah or whatever, come down to New Zealand for a year and a half and film this. And he's just unreal at how good he is.
Viggo's kid, because apparently his kid is the reason he did it. So.
Do it, Dad. But this time last year, or the movies we watched last year, we talked about, seeing Kate Hudson in Almost Famous, Hugh Jackman, X-Men, even George Clooney in Oh Brother, where it was like, you could see them becoming movie stars.
Right.
I do not have any recollection of Viggo Mortensen before this movie.
No, he's in stuff, but no.
Not to this level of. I mean, every other actor outside of maybe the Pippin, I had no context of who they were.
From a male standpoint, you knew Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
right.
But most of them I knew at some facet beforehand. I mean,
right.
Sean Astin, like all the main characters. I mean, hell, Ian McKellen was in X-Men. Like,
yep.
Yeah, you knew them in some capacity. Sean being the first guy that gets killed off and everything.
Literally, yeah.
Sean Bean has a murderer's row of death scenes under his belt. But this was the one that I don't remember ever seeing Mortensen before. And he is just a badass all around.
A little more caution from you. That is no trinket you carry.
I carry nothing.
Indeed. I can avoid being seen if I wish, but to disappear entirely, that is a rare gift.
Who are you?
Are you frightened?
Yes.
Not nearly frightened enough. I know what hunts you.
Yeah, he's sympathetic, has a soft edge to him. Like at the end when he's telling Frodo, I would have gone into Mordor with you, gives him the ring and walks out to a sea of Uruk-hai waiting there and puts his sword up to his face like, come on, MFers.
Yeah,
I got you. Like, just unbelievable. But you see that with him earlier when they're at the, I forget the name of the tower they're at, where he comes in and saves the day with the 5 ring wraiths and kills them. And, or not kills them, but at least gets them out of there. That was such a great sense of they're in peril.
Right.
It truly is set in, but he is going to be your savior throughout. Viggo Mortensen, unreal in this. So good.
Yeah, I think the whole series ends up with a sort of like, how is Viggo not nominated, especially for Return of the King?
Exactly.
And we know why Ian McKellen was, because he's the old wise whatever, and he's outstanding in this movie. So good. Yeah, I had like sort of a question of movies like this, how do you pick a best part? How do you pick a best performance? It's really tough. And I think the best movies out there, there's not a weak link. After this, we're going to talk about Gosford Park. Same thing. There's no weak link from an actor standpoint.
Sure.
Like, oh yeah, that guy. Without that guy, this would have been pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think and I do think Viggo's a big part of that in that Aragorn. So for me, my favorite part though, because I wrote that question and a few minutes later I was like, oh yeah, I remember that, was when he denies Frodo with the ring, closes his hand, says, I would have gone with you to the end. And you're like, that to me is why, like, Aragorn refusing the ring is like the best. There's the old adage of like the best leaders don't seek it, but when it seeks them out, they're ready for it, kind of a thing, right? And so, and that to me is Aragorn. That's his moment of understanding going forward. He actually is the person that's gonna, assuming the ring gets destroyed, he understands his leadership. Yes. He's going to be the king. I think later they try and make it something else. They try and make other moments be the thing where he accepts his destiny.
Yeah.
That's it. That's him denying what his ancestors could not do. Boom. That's my favorite moment of the movie.
And I love that you talk about that, because you think about Gandalf. So Frodo understands that this has been placed upon him, and he is going to be a steward of this. And he's
not even placed upon him. Like, so Aragorn, it was sort of forced on him. I was born into this.
Yes.
Frodo sort of like walks into this.
What would you have me do?
Right. Bilbo has this. And then he's just doing it. And then at the Council of Elrond, he just says like, I will take it. I'm watching all these people. It's not that he wants this.
Exactly.
It's literally a leader who says, I don't want this, but I'm the only one who can do it.
Yes. But I love that Frodo, in different variations throughout this movie, asks someone else to take it.
Yeah.
He gives it to Gandalf, so take it. And Gandalf has a huge reaction to it. And Galadriel, same thing. Huge reaction to it. And yet Aragorn has this tiny reaction to it, where he has given a moment And even Boromir is like, I will take it from you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that. But this is, I totally agree to that level of Aragorn. Like, he's given this tiny moment where I could take this.
Yeah, here you go. It's
and
right there.
It's just quiet.
Yep.
And just folds his fingers back and says, I would have gone to, it just.
Yeah, no, he's great.
Frodo?
It has taken Boromir.
Where is the ring?
Stay away!
Frodo! I swore to protect you.
Can you protect me from yourself? Would you destroy it?
I would have gone with you to the end. Into the very fires of Mordor.
So good.
No, yeah, Viggo is good. I mean, not only is so...
because I'd never seen him before this.
I mean, yeah, I had, but in small parts and
Sure.
stuff. But no,
but not just we're like, who is
recognizable-
this guy?
Right, yeah.
Kicking ass.
Right.
And yet, like, just killing me from a emotional standpoint. And then when he comes in and saves the day for Boromir, oh, God.
I love that scene, too, because then he kills the... Uruk-hai bad guy. But it's not like a long, drawn-out battle. It's
Yes.
literally like 30 seconds to
Exactly.
45, and he's just like, F this, man, I'm better than you, and he just takes it over.
Yes,
'Cause
I got
love
this,
that
I
scene.
got this.
Yep.
The fifth thing, if we're keeping
whatever
track, is you and I grew up in loving like movie scores
Mm-hmm.
and compositions
Grew up.
and
Still do. Yeah.
It's always a thing of, and we've long talked about how many times a movie score can make or break a movie.
Oh, sure.
We can
We've
go,
talked about
"Ugh,"
it. Yeah. Yep.
But dear God, Howard Shore,
Sure, man. Yep.
for this. What's surprising, I think, back to when I saw the film, was that before this movie, I honestly could not have said one film that he's composed that had a significant musical presence.
Sure.
And we were watching it because we had a lot of time on our hands. I'm like, wow, I know I had like, he's done stuff before, like Silence of the Lambs or Seven, or he was always kind of an ambiance type of composer. I always felt.
Sure.
But there wasn't much that would stand out that you could ever see what that could be like.
Mm-hmm.
So when this came out and the score was, and still is, like jaw-droppingly good.
Yep.
For example, like, again, spoiler, Gandalf's death at the Bridge of Khazad-dûm.
Shall not pass!
Follow you fools.
Always gets me.
Mm-hmm.
Always gets me. And I knew going in he was going to die.
You're talking about the death, or when they're out, when they actually leave,
The
and
death
that sort of like,
and the
when they're
like
out of
the
the rocks
female
and that
and the music
whoever
comes
voice-
in.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, just the ethereal score and the woman singing for that still gets me, and it's
Right.
just to the power of Howard Shore. And so,
Yep.
but I love that what you talked about when we were watching it was the complexity that must have been involved of him having to be involved, think about the 3 movies that would be and what the themes might be, and he's working on that. But then he has a theatrical release and then the extended release.
Right.
And so he's got to redo, well, not redo, but he's got to think through how he might have the cues, ends, intros, outros for everything. And he won for this year for best score, and I think he won for Return of the King. We'll see. But definitely...
he did.
Definitely deserves it.
Everyone won for Return of the King.
That's true. They
won
lose.
14, so yeah.
But he's...
Or 13, yeah. But yeah.
To come from a scoring background that was fine, did his job.
Yeah, there was never anything...
This is like John Williams level. Incredible.
It's his... What's his... I mean, it's his, like, masterpiece,
Yes.
right? I mean, it is, because what has he done since then, really? Some.
Yeah.
But you're just like, okay, that's fine.
Exactly.
Right, so because I was like... I mean, really, when you think about how many themes are there, the best music or movie scores and movie composers might give you, well, a basic one will give you 1 or 2 themes throughout the whole film, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, say John Williams or
Yes.
whatever, he'll give you 3 or 4. And I mean, John Williams is the best. But in this particular series, there are like...
8? A dozen?
7, 8,
Yes.
9 themes. Every world has a theme to itself. So when you go back to Isengard with Sauron, or Saruman, excuse me, and there's that sort of like the dark drums and the exactly, and you know exactly where you are. You don't even have you could be blind and you know like you're in the freaking Isengard.
Yes.
And obviously the ethereal stuff when it comes to being
the elves.
With the elves, but even then, you know, Lord Elrond and when Rivendell has a different one. They have different themes there, and then Hobbiton have its
the
own
Shire.
theme. So everything has its own theme, and they all have very unique sounds.
Yes,
it is absolutely his opus of just saying
totally.
And I think that's why he won for this, and why he won for Return of the King and for Song for Return of the King.
Yes,
and he deserves it. You're just like
absolutely.
This is I wrote the same thing. I'm just like, how can you write that many themes? They're all recognizable to being Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, we're humming them as a start.
Right. Yep. Each, it's just, I don't know. I mean, you just go, again, it falls back to everyone at the A game, right? At the beginning of this, somebody had to have said, hey, Howard, Richard Taylor, you know what I mean? Whomever, we have to do this and do it. Like, this is it. This is your moment. This is if you get this wrong, we fail. And there is some truth to saying if any one of the things we've talked about so far were not, maybe not perfect, but at the top of their game, the movie fails.
Yes. Yeah, it falls apart. You're like, yikes.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's good.
So that was, I mean, I had that on mine too.
We joked, but man, can there be a better sign or like, you know, the New Zealand tourism board?
Oh my God.
Must have been just like, thank God for this movie. Because prior to this, it's cool, I imagine, to go to New Zealand. But after this, it must have been like, you want to come down to a Lord of the Rings tour, and we'll show you around every cool place that it had in this movie.
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Because it's true. Because you watch and you go, what an incredible
Who wouldn't
place.
want to go?
Yeah.
I want to go.
Yes.
I still want to go. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be incredible. So,
yeah, how is there one place that has all of this stuff?
Exactly.
Apparently there is, and it's New Zealand.
Yes.
Like,
Gotta
come
go.
on.
Gotta go.
Because, and not only for the whole series, just this movie, you're in mountains,
yeah, the snow, lush green,
right,
arid, like,
right. They're almost
places.
Like in Liv Tyler's character, Arwen. She's she's riding through pine trees or whatever. I was just like, you're everywhere. There's literally everything you need, all in this one movie.
Yes.
Come on, man.
And just wait till the other one. So,
right.
Yeah. Those are the thoughts I had. In addition to at least like taking notes, because after that, like maybe halfway point, I'm like, I think I'm done. Like, this movie's so good.
Well, there's not much you can add to it, right? I'm just
Sure.
saying, like, at this point, what is it? It's just fun to have a reaction. I really do think, though, I understand why, but man, I know Grant Major wins for production design for Return of the King.
Yes.
But come the F on. I understand Moulin Rouge won this particular year, which is really good. And the production design in Moulin Rouge is really good. But really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
If you think about Moulin Rouge, I'm not saying anyone could do it, right? But in the production designer world, there are many people who could do this.
Yes.
But when you see the complexity of all of the sets that were done there, it does somewhat. I remember back when Return of the King came out, and obviously we'll talk about that later, but everyone knew if you were, it was like all the Oscar nominee all voters
all the
were like, we're just gonna give it to them.
Yes.
And it's almost like that with this, because they're like, they knew that it was all made at once, and they knew that, well, Grant Major, he's obviously going to be up for each and every year that this is up, because it's a production design. So we're just going to give it to him at some point down the road, which I'm like, F you, man.
Yeah.
We love Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
But it does not hold a candle. No. The sets do not hold a candle to... No. They literally built freaking Hobbiton out of a goddamn field.
Yeah, a year in advance.
Right. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
This isn't a backlot of Universal Studios. You're in goddamn New Zealand.
Yes.
You're just like, bring the bulldozer in and create anything that, by the way, still exists.
So great.
This isn't like a set design thing that falls apart after a year. That damn place still exists for tourists to, like, architecturally speaking.
You can go there. You go to Hobbiton.
Like, damn it.
It's funny.
That was the only one of all of them. I'm like, what? How does that, like, is it one for cinematography, score, visual effects, and makeup,
Clearly
right?
makeup, yes.
Right. All rightfully.
Yes.
All 13 nominations were right. The 4 wins were right. And I understand how the Oscars work.
Yes.
It's a vote, that kind of stuff. The only one that I found myself getting super mad about as we kept going was like, freaking Grant Major. How do you not win for this? Each and every year. Richard Taylor won for all 3 years on the visual effects. But Grant Major, apparently, no.
No, we're not giving it to you. Yes, some else might be, but I actually made a note of, like, I truly think this film did not win some of the categories.
Oh, because of
adapted screenplay.
But I did look up. It was A Beautiful Mind. It was an adapted screenplay. So Akiva freaking Goldsman, one of the worst screenwriters
he's so
ever,
terrible.
Gets it because it won Best Picture, and we'll talk about it later.
Yes.
We both enjoy Beautiful Mind, but come the freak on, man.
But I agree, because I think the Academy had some possible, like, unwritten understanding or, like, behind the scenes memo out to everybody. Is like, hey, this is so incredible, but unless they somehow screw the pooch the next 2 movies,
right?
In 2003, we're going to give them everything under the sun because it's so incredible. So just don't give them the stuff now. And these awards shouldn't come now because and that's some of the detriment to the film effort of let's do 3 together, where, you think of Godfather and Godfather Part 2, like, they were never designed to be.
Have you watched those yet?
A long time ago. I hear they're overrated, but that's okay.
Eat a big bag of D's, man.
But that came about where it's like, oh, like this is good. It's separate. But knowing that these were going to be a totality of the experience, I can see them being, let's just wait 2 more years and we'll have them win everything.
For all of the Oscars flaws, they knew it was coming.
Yes. So I do agree to that point where it's like, really? Come on.
All right, well, so we are going to move on then to our beer reaction segment that we call Drinking Buddies, the sequel.
Let's get weird.
We have been enjoying beer for quite some time, so our opinions on these beers are, of course, ironclad, and if you don't like it, you can...
Irrefutable.
GTF, man. Right. So what do you... take us through our Drinking Buddies for the night, we'll discuss. The 4. We had other beers... We'll just stick with the 4.
The 4 that we had.
Malt beer.
First off that we had was Thorn Street Brewing out of San Diego. Their Thai Pina Colada Smoothie Sour. For me, one, really quick, a smoothie, it ain't no smoothie. It's a sour, but the smoothie,
it wasn't as lactosey, but it was not a sour. It was in between. I didn't find it sour.
I found it to be a little bit sour, but not like a smoothie where it's like chunks coming out.
No, well, thank God.
Yes.
Right.
I'd have to like tip it over. But anyway, for me, it was a 4.25. I thought it was a fantastic flavor of, it says here is with ripe pineapple, coconut milk, ginger, and kaffir lime.
Did you say ripe pineapple?
Yes, not the sour pineapple or spoiled, but yeah, ripe pineapple.
Ripe.
Yes.
I think you said right. Like RITE or like RIHTE. I was like, what?
Yes. Yeah. It's anyway, so I loved it. It was really good.
I don't know. Is this pineapple good? I don't know. It's all right.
It's all right.
I had a 4.25 as well. I was like, oh, yum. This is because my problem with smoothie sours is I thought this had a nice balance, actually, from a sour standpoint. It wasn't sour. It wasn't too meh on your tongue.
Yes.
So it was a nice balance, really good flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a 4.25.
Well, remember the ones we had from what was the one in Wisconsin from Eau Claire?
Brewing Project.
Yeah. Where it was like
chunk. Right.
AF. Like, no, this was a nice clean one. So
yeah.
It was good. And then that was our first non-theme beer. And then we moved into our other theme options. Then we had from Bad Habit their King's Brunch Imperial Pastry Stout. Second breakfast.
What about second breakfast?
It was really good. I loved it. It was a 4.25 for me. A great blend of vanilla and cinnamon that I didn't think Bad Habit could make a pastry stout like this. Not that I didn't think they could.
Except for the fact that you've already had this pastry stout, but irrelevant.
But I forgot it.
Yeah, okay.
I forgot it, truly. But it's really, really good.
It is good.
Yes.
I actually think I rated it last year maybe 4.5. I think there was a little more cinnamon than what I like.
Sure.
Right? But I have 4.25 as well. It's a very well crafted beer. Really good. I appreciate that they did crowlers.
Yes.
Before last year, thanks pandemic, it was always in bottles and it was really hard to get. But last year, obviously, they always did crowlers. So, it's really good.
So it's a double theme one. Speaking of double theme, bearded. And what's an iris? It's
oh my God.
Part of the eye.
Right.
Of Sauron.
I didn't think that when I bought it, but yeah.
Me either, but until we watched it, I'm like, oh.
Anyway.
Lit this eye. Anyway.
The Bearded Iris.
Bearded Iris out of Nashville. Their double homestyle, double IPA. This is really good.
I really liked it too.
We both had a sip of like,
hello.
Gina. It's really good. 4.5.
Yep.
For me.
Look at us. 3 out of 3. Same rating.
Man.
Our twinsies.
Yeah, it's but I liked it. It's like an old school type of double IPA.
Oh,
I like me some
not
hazies.
A huge bite to it.
No.
Oh, super smooth.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
so
it was great.
You can find it, man. Check it out. It's
top
really
10.
good.
Chin Hansen.
Then there, or wherever it's available in your area.
Yeah, whatever.
Check that on Tap. Modern Times out of San Diego was our 4th one.
Oh, here we go. Are we gonna go for 4? We'll see.
Their Monsters Park Imperial Stout. Aged in bourbon barrels with vanilla. 4.25.
Madagascar vanilla even.
Yes, 4.25 for me.
Ooh, no, well, we didn't go 4 for 4.
Wait, no, sorry, that's my notes. 4.5.
Still didn't go. Oh, I had a 4.75.
Was not it? Wow.
Yeah, I really like this.
It's really good.
It was really good.
Like the barrel aging was super subtle.
Yep.
Where you could taste it, but it wasn't a punch in the face. And the vanilla, perfect.
The Madagascar vanilla, man. That's the only way to go. I really loved it. And full disclosure to listeners, I've had a few today. So if I were to have this beer tomorrow, fully sober in the afternoon, maybe it drops.
Maybe.
I
think so.
Really balanced flavor.
It's really good.
Yeah. I was like, and I do enjoy Modern Times. I'm always been a fan of theirs, so I think maybe that happened. I wrote down 475, and I'm damn well gonna stick with it.
It's good. It's good. Hey, did I tell you I was there last week?
I was there like 2 months ago. We're fine.
Yeah. It was good. Good monster one to end on. Yep.
Yeah, I think really good beers for us, though. Not a single off beer or anything like that. Really well done.
It's been a great night.
Yeah, it's been a good night. All right. Well, so that actually, do you have any other segments, anything pop up?
I don't know about say like a hot shot, but I have a question for you.
Okay.
And I would put it under a hot shot type thing.
Ooh, okay.
But
You're American. Yes, from America.
Has there been a bigger gamble on a movie than Lord of the Rings and Peter Jackson? So let me kind of set the stage as you contemplate it.
Sure.
So Jackson's, and the director Jackson and the screenwriter, his credits prior to this were a small budget horror film, Dead Alive, a Oscar nominated for screenplay,
yeah,
true
Heavenly
crime
Creatures.
murder movie, Heavenly Creatures, with early Kate Winslet, and a special effects driven bomb.
Don't even call it a bomb.
That financially,
Damn
I'm
it.
not. I like the movie. I
love
like
The
Frighteners.
Frighteners.
I like it.
Fine.
It's well done.
Fine.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox. But think about that's his track record. And then New Line Cinema says, "Hey, let's give you $300 million to undertake something which is pretty much had never been done before, and we're going to film back to back to back over 16 months, and we're going to put all this faith and effort into a somewhat unproven talent to steward one of the most recognizable fantasy books of all time." And it had been like, I think since, the Beatles tried to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
they wanted to do it. Yep.
Yeah, others have tried to do it where it was like an animated movie, which sucks.
Yep.
But he said, no, I want to do 3 movies, split them up book by book by book. And has there been a bigger risk from a unproven talent? We're going to put this effort into somebody that we don't know for sure, and the execution is this incredible. That's my question.
No, absolutely not. Not especially not when you consider the outcome of it.
Yes.
Like the reward. There's been huge risks in film history that have not paid off.
Yes.
But no, not when you talk about, like, if you're talking about $300 million to make all 3, and I said earlier, the first one made $900 million worldwide. The first one.
Yeah. Major money back.
Right. You're good.
Yeah.
At this point. And yet somehow New Line is still out of business, I guess. So I don't know who ran that shit show.
It didn't work out well.
No, there is no bigger gamble that paid off.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Yes,
film history.
exactly.
Absolutely not.
Like where they rolled the dice and said, let's put our chips, not to use any other adage of gambling, onto the table. Like, this is what we're going to put, and it totally paid off.
No, there's just not. I can't even, you can list off big movies that maybe didn't work as well or whatever, but especially when you consider the fact that nobody knew who Peter Jackson was at the time. Well, not nobody. Most people didn't know Peter Jackson at the time. They knew 10% of this cast.
Yes.
When you take all things included,
we're going to film in New Zealand?
Right. Which everyone's like, wait, what?
Yeah. The filming center of the world.
Where the Tasmanian Devils from? No, that's not right either.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows where that damn place was. So, I agree. No, there is no bigger...
Yeah.
No,
that's my thought. Yep.
All right. Well, unless I'm forgetting something, we are coming to our final segment of the night, which would be Quiz Show.
The exciting quiz program, 21.
Where we search for trivia surrounding our subject film and try to stump the other so that I can obviously throw in some embarrassing
Awesome.
sound effects.
Sound effects. I like it.
I do have a couple. I'm kind of curious where you went. It's always kind of fun to see where you and I go very different directions.
Yeah.
Oftentimes. So do you have a few?
I have 3.
Okay. Technically, I have 3 as well. So why don't you go first?
Well, let's try it. So Sir Ian McKellen.
Yep.
Was not the original actor that Peter Jackson wanted for Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
What classic Scottish spy turned down the role of Gandalf?
Sean Connery did. And I think didn't he like not understand the
script.
screenplay, right?
Yes.
He was like, I don't even want to break up my Sean Connery now, but you're just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
You're just like,
it's not for me.
Yeah. You're like,
Can you believe that?
Yeah, yes. No.
Yes. Oh,
No.
Mish money.
Peter, this is terrible.
You blew it!
This is no. It's
Is
no
it secret?
Untouchables.
Is it safe?
Yeah, no, that would have been awful.
I just think it would have been terrible. Like, thank God it didn't work out. And I like Sean Connery.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
It would have been.
Yes.
Sean Connery is great, but you can only see Sean Connery as Sean Connery, right?
You couldn't ever divest of who he is from this role,
Right.
As Gandalf.
And like Untouchables, he's amazing in it, but but no, it would have been awful,
right? Thank God.
Awful.
Yeah, but I love this trivia. Quick, thing about it. I had never read that until reading that this week.
Yeah, all 3 of mine.
what?
I'm like, I never really knew this before, and all my times of watching it, and some really weird ones. So I'll start with an easy one.
Okay.
Because when you think about it, it's easy. So J.R.R. Tolkien, the author, died in 1973. Yet one of the principal actors had the fortune of meeting this legendary author. Which actor in this film had the chance to meet J.R.R. Tolkien?
All right, it's gotta be old.
It's not Elijah Wood. We're just gonna throw out that.
Exactly. It's gotta be Christopher Lee.
It is Christopher Lee.
Yeah, he's the old.
He also was a huge fan anyway.
Like, apparently, he reads a book every year before he died. Yeah. So that had to make sense.
Christopher Lee actually did meet Tolkien.
Jeez.
The only one on the entire cast that met. So
do you think at the craft services?
Yeah, exactly.
Every now and then they've been like, "Hey, by the way, have you met Christopher Lee?" Or no, Christopher Lee's like, "Have you met Tolkien?" No.
Yeah.
Guess what? I did.
Yeah.
Dick.
Yeah. Also, apparently, he wanted the role of Gandalf.
Oh, that would have
been awful, right?
Not good. He's just too old for
weird.
it.
Is this how I sound all the time? I don't have my headphones on.
You just took your headphones off. Yeah,
they're dead.
Yeah,
so I can't hear them anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, this is awful.
Oh God.
Anyway, that's my one.
That's my sound.
So we're 1 for 1.
Of the main 9 Fellowship actors,
okay,
which is the tallest?
Oh, damn you! I had the same question. No! I had the same question. John Rhys Davies.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I did call him John Rhys Meyers earlier, and I apologize.
I didn't interrupt you in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. John Rhys
How
Davies.
crazy is they cast the dwarf who's 6'1"?
Yeah. Who's shortest?
Oh gosh, that's a
Suck it.
One of the hobbits. I say Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood, yeah, he was 5'6", and John Rhys Davies is 6'1".
He's 6'1".
He was the only one of all of them over 6 feet. I looked them all up.
I had me too because I'm like, no way.
You didn't because you did not look up Elijah.
Yeah,
Wood.
they're pretty much 5'11".
Yeah.
Sorry, I should say
everyone else is
the other ones. I thought
right?
yeah, pretty much all male white people like 5'11".
Yep.
And then John Rhys Davies. Oh, sorry. Okay, I guess we're down to one each.
That's fine. Yeah. So I had a follow-up question of who was the shortest.
That's a good one.
I knew it.
That's a good one.
Do you know where Elijah Wood? With your last one.
Do you know where Elijah Wood was born?
No.
In Iowa.
Ugh.
Cedar Rapids, I think.
Ugh. No wonder his eyes are weird.
Anyway, crazy.
He's got those weird eyes. Got those Iowa crazy
deep blue eyes.
Oh god, yeah.
All right, so
you're your last one since we crossed over.
Musician Enya, and composer Howard Shore were nominated for the final song "Into the West."
No, may it be?
Sorry, my notes were for the sorry.
Yeah, "Into the West" is from Return of the King.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
May it be?
Yep.
But a few years before Lord of the Rings, Enya had actually been asked to score a movie, but declined. What 1997 multiple Oscar-winning film, including Best Original Score, did Enya turn down?
That's a great one. Well played, good sir.
Thank you.
1997.
Well, it won
Best
98,
original
but it came out in
score.
97.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Titanic?
Yes.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah. Cameron reached out to her and said, I want you to score my movie. And she's like, hard pass.
Good.
And that's what got
Smart.
Cameron and James Horner back together after Aliens, because there was a falling out. Yes. But you think about the Titanic score, there's a lot of that kind of vocal stuff
absolutely.
to it. And I had no idea until this week. I'm like, oh, wow. Huh. Well played, sir.
There you go.
Nice.
So I did not know this, and apparently it is common knowledge, so we'll see. But
We'll see.
we all know that Oscar winners and nominees are everywhere in this film, both for this film and others.
Yes.
But there is a very brief moment when a young actor/songwriter from New Zealand pops up in the Council of Elrond scene. What New Zealand-born Oscar winner shows up in that scene?
Shut up. Is Taika Waititi in there?
No.
Okay. Is it Brit?
Speaking of Flight of the Conchords,
We talked about it.
Brett McKenzie.
He's in there?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he looks like a dumbass, by the way, with
'Cause
no
he's in the
beard or
third
whatever.
one.
He is in there, and he's in The Hobbit too for different. Yeah, but yeah, Brett McKenzie
Really?
is in that scene off to the right or whatever. Yeah,
Just hanging
He's
out.
Just hanging out.
Wow.
There you go.
Because he won for, what, the Muppets or
The
whatever?
Muppets. Yeah, Am I Man
Yes.
or Muppet or whatever it is.
Oh, that's good. That's good trivia.
Mm-hmm.
Although,
I did not know that.
I had
he was
no
in there.
idea.
I was like, what?
although
And he looks, when you see his picture, I'm like, bullshit, that is not Brett McKenzie, because he doesn't have a beard, A.
Sure.
Because nobody,
No.
outside of Gandalf has allowed a beard, apparently. Or humans.
And
Because
Aragorn.
all the elves don't have them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he looks really weird. But
it's a definitely a small circle when you say an Oscar-winning New Zealand.
I know, I was like, but
like,
how
no
can I be-
way
How
is
obscure
that-
is it to just say, what Oscar-winning songwriter was in it? You're like, really?
Yeah. That's the only one from New
Right,
Zealand.
exactly.
Yeah. That's good. Well done.
Any other final thoughts on Lord of the Rings?
So good. Again, like you said, if you've been living in a rock and haven't watched this, or if it ain't your jam, that's fine.
Mhm.
But it's so good. Such a good movie.
Yeah, I think for me the fun of this, I was like the fun of some of our other movies is seeing how they hold up.
Yes.
Right after so long, some less than others.
Yeah.
But for me, this was more about experiencing. It was fun to experience the memories, the remembering of seeing in the theater and talking about it and the emotions and how it holds up. We already know it holds up.
Totally.
But it's just fun to watch again and talk about it and then
Yes.
research things and find these weird, stupid trivia things
Right?
afterwards. Like, I didn't know this. So I love that part of it.
Yes.
So I'm really glad
absolutely.
we watched it. Obviously, we would have anyway. Well, all right then. So that actually brings us to the end of the episode. This, as I get my notes out. Yeah, stay tuned for our upcoming happy hour episode on a very different Best Picture nominee, Gosford Park. And be on the lookout towards the end of December for our end of the year Oscar special on the Best Picture winning A Beautiful Mind. And we'll also offer up our own personal Oscar picks. Lots to enjoy coming up. Also, if you're curious what 2022 holds in terms of movies we are discussing, head to our website for that list.
Ooh.
Live as of today. We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and for clicking that like or subscribe button on your devices. Find us on Twitter at years_beers and on Facebook, or head to 20years4beers.com. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks.
To the Bridge of Kazakh Doom.
They crammed in so much.
Shove that Pulitzer Prize square up your ass.